Valorant has finally released an agent that might actually change the meta. Of course, I'm talking about the new agent Tejo, who came out, and I think most people's reaction so far, the people who have had some of the early access, has been that this is a good agent, right? That this is an agent that, yeah, is gonna be pretty strong in both ranked and pro play as well. But to me, it's not so much that the agent is so strong that therefore he's going to change the Valorant meta. Kind of like Chamber when Chamber came out and he was just, you know, so oppressively strong that, you know, you just had to pick him, so he changed the meta in that way. No. This agent is going to change the meta in a slightly different way, where he combos with certain agents so well that you might want to go, well, okay, if we're picking Tejo, maybe we should just pick these other agents as well because they combo so well together, and you could end up with potentially very different looking comps because of that. Before we dive into some of those combos though, first let me talk about what maps this new agent is best on, right? So you can get a good idea of what maps you probably should or should not be playing the agent on, according to me at least, according to kind of going on the maps and seeing what's going on with the agent. So first map is Abyss here. I don't think he's going to be very great on Abyss. The map is a little too big, I think, for him overall. But then we come to Bind, and Bind I think is insane. The strength of this agent to me really comes from his signature ability. I think that is a really, really strong ability. The drone is also pretty good as well, but the signature ability, the fact that it recharges, the fact that it deals so much damage, it's a really, really strong ability. And so I just think that the map suits him so well because that signature ability is so strong in it. And as I say, the drone is pretty good, but the drone is pretty good everywhere. On Fracture, I think he's good, but maybe not quite as strong as Bind. I think I'm looking more at kind of a low A tier here for Fracture, where he's going to be an option that you will consider to play, but you might also consider other options, and you might go in a slightly different direction if you prefer something else, but still definitely an option. On Haven, I do think on Haven he is also an option. That might surprise some of you because you might not think, hey, you know, the Fracture Bind are kind of similar. Haven maybe is a bit of a different map, but I do think he's still pretty decent on Haven. And again, he maybe doesn't fit into the meta as well on Haven as he does with Fracture or Bind, but I do still think he's a decent option that you might consider playing. On Lotus, I think he's pretty good as well. I think on Lotus, I'm going to put him in like the high A tier. He defends A really well, you know, at the start of a round. He's really good at that, putting down that signature ability, as I said. Then on Pearl, not so much, right? I think that B-Long, which is kind of the main question on Pearl for me always, is how you're going to defend B-Long. He's not the best at. And then you've got Split, which really I think, again, you could either put in the S or very high A tier. For now, I'll just put it in the very high A tier, but you very easily could see this as another S tier map for this agent. But now let's talk about some of those combos with other agents where this agent could really shift the meta on some of these maps, right? Let's start with the signature ability, which is really where this all comes from. All right? This is the thing that we want to combo, because this thing, for instance, let's take this, right? If I put these two here in lamps and you're a defender in lamps, well, what are you doing? Because you have to move, because one of these will kill you on its own, right? So you have to move. You have to go somewhere. You can't just stick around here. Well, what happens if I do this, right? What I just did by putting these into lamps. Well, what happens if our raise, you know, we're on Bind, we're probably playing raise. What happens if a raise throws a raise nade there? Well, you're going to die to that as well, right? So you can't come out this way, so then you have to retreat this way. Well, what if we've got a Brim ult, right? Well, if we've got a Brim ult and we Brim ult this, well, then where are you going to go, right? No matter where you go here, you will die, right? Brim ult here, my rockets into lamps, a raise nade into here. If you're defending in lamps, you can't be there. You can't be in lamps because we can just insta-kill you. Oh, and by the way, you know, I have an ability which maybe tells me if you're in lamps as well, right? Like if you're back here and I see you, you just die instantly, right? If we can combo all that together. And that is where this agent is so strong. And you might just think, oh, that's a specific example on Bind with Raise and Brim that looks pretty strong, right? Well, no, because that's the thing, because this agent kind of combos really well with any agent that has a nade or some kind of molly, right? Because the thing is, if you're playing Killjoy, KO, Brim, like Gecko, right? Any sort of molly or grenade ability, just think about like what you can do with a sight, right? If we raise nade here, and then we go for the Tejo, you know, 2 rockets in here. And maybe you got a Viper, you know, molly landing on the top so people get vulnerable. And then maybe I have a Killjoy Nanoswarm lineup to get there. Like, you start to get the idea, right? That we can just line up grenades everywhere on a site and just, like, completely cover the site with mollies and grenades. Meaning that no matter where you are, no matter where you're going, you're getting damaged and potentially dying just straight away. On top of that, of course, he combos super well with two particular agents in Fade and Deadlock. Because, for instance, let's say that someone is playing in the little corner here, out towards showers just here. Well, let's say I'm playing Fade and I do this, and I spot that someone is just here, right? Well, then they're dead, right? As long as they're not playing Yoru or Omen or Chamber, well, then I just do this, seize them, and we put a little, you know, rocket in here, and you just insta-die, right? And again, I can just be the Fade. I mean, the Tejo could be defaulting towards short, right? They don't even have to be with the Fade in this instance. They can be, you know, halfway across the map and still do it, and they're still dead, right? And obviously the same thing is true for a Deadlock Gravnet as well, where a Deadlock Gravnet will obviously catch a big surface area, right? Like it covers a lot of radius, does the Gravnet. And if you catch people in these things, they just die. And particularly again on maps, smaller maps, more congested maps like Binds, in areas like this, this is a free kill potentially across the map. But then if you really want to push this to its limits of getting extremely petty and doing something extremely funny, then look no further than Vice. Because you could potentially do something like a wall like this with Vice, right? And if at any point some, you know, attacker just stumbles in here for whatever reason, which they commonly will, they will be trapped in here. And at that point, your Tejo, wherever they are, potentially across the map, can simply just send in a rocket from B into this little cubby, and they will have no escape and simply die here. And you can do this with Vice with this kind of wall on really any sort of map, in terms of just trapping people in with the wall and then sending death at them, right? Or if that's not your taste and you want to go for something a bit more extreme and you feel like, oh yeah, but they have to be trapped against a kind of wall, you know, so that how often is that really going to work? Well, you can put a wall in a more normal position, maybe something like this at the entrance of lamps. And then as they come into lamps, you can potentially put down a Razorvine. The wall goes off, someone's in there, and then they take the Razorvine damage. And if you really wanted to, you could put down a second Razorvine as well. But you probably don't need to do that, because the thing is, the rockets deal 70 damage, okay? But when you run through an enemy Razorvine, if you take one tick, you take 10 damage. So that means that the rockets only have to hit you twice if you're moving in this. So you've been trapped in here, you're having to escape, you're slowed as well, don't forget, and the rockets are bombarding you here and here. So you have to run this way because there's no other escape. You probably almost certainly will die no matter what, but even if not, you can of course just have any defender just sitting here waiting for you, and it is absolute certain death. And this is where we might get the meta shift from this agent, that if you truly believe that this agent and those combos are strong enough, then it really might make you reconsider, right, of how you go about building a comp, right? Maybe we have to ditch a Cypher or Killjoy to play Vice or Deadlock instead, right? And so instead of just changing, oh, he's just going to slot in for some other initiator, no, it's really possible that you start going, well, we need to play Raze anytime we play with him because the combo with Raze is really, really strong. So for instance, on a map like Haven, we're playing Tejo, well, then we're playing Raze, right? Instead of Omen, maybe we're playing Astra for the Astra Suck combo instead. And then maybe instead of playing Cypher or Killjoy, who knows? Maybe we're playing Vice to trap people in, or maybe we're playing Deadlock for that combo instead, right? And maybe instead of Sober, we're playing Fade because there's the combo with the Siege, right? So on Haven, just from picking one new agent, you potentially end up with a completely unrecognizable team comp for a Haven map, because the combos are so strong and you can potentially get so many just free util kills with this agent that it is just insane.